Suits actress Meghan Markle married some unemployed dude who still lives with his grandma.
The former prince and current river corpse has been arrested and now may be banned from ever taking the throne. In fact, the royal family said the only way he can become king is if it comes down to either him or Meghan.
SNL just came swinging at Meghan Markle again, and this time it wasn't just a light jab. It felt like a full-on takedown. No soft jokes, no holding back, just straight-up savage energy all across the sketch. Now yeah, SNL roasts everybody. That's their whole thing. Nobody is off limits.
That the organizers of King Charles's coronation have officially invited Meghan Markle, and this is nice, at a starting salary of $19 an hour.
But something about the way they keep circling back to Meghan and Harry feels different. Like there's extra spice in it. It's not just random comedy anymore. It feels way more pointed, like they know exactly what buttons to push and they're pressing all of them. And it didn't stop there. Emma Stone even jumped into the mix, showing up as one of Harry's exes in the sketch. She didn't play it safe either. She went right at Meghan, mocking her by acting like she's just riding the royal wave.
Look who it is. It's one of my ex-girlfriends. Excellent. Miss Tinsley Granger-Gash.
Yeah.
Hi, Tins. You want to say something to my future child?
Oh, hello, little baby. Hello, little tiny baby.
At one point, she basically painted Meghan as someone living large off palace money, throwing out that freeloader label like it was nothing. That kind of joke lands hard, especially coming from someone stepping into that role so confidently. And that's where it starts to hit different, because the whole narrative around Meghan keeps coming back into play every single time.
She has announced plans for a spin-off to the hit series Suits, which will be set in Los Angeles. It will focus on Meghan Markle's character's struggle to balance her legal career while also caring for an unemployed immigrant.
People keep bringing up how she entered the spotlight through the royal family, and then later built a whole new lane by speaking out about it. But at the same time, there's this image she puts out, like she was already deeply connected in Hollywood before all of that happened. That contrast is what keeps people talking. On one side, you've got the royal connection that changed everything. And on the other side, this idea of being fully established before it all.
It's your boy, Prince Harry, a.k.a. the Ginger of Windsor, a.k.a. Redhead Redemption 2. I am making this video for you, my future child, to watch when you're older.
SNL clearly sees that gap, and they're turning it into comedy gold every chance they get. People keep saying this woman always needs to be the center of attention. Like, it's not even optional for her. It's constant, non-stop energy. The way it's described, it's almost like attention is fuel, something she runs on every single day. The idea people push is that she wakes up already thinking about how to stay in the spotlight.
Splendid, I'm so busy and happy. I'm glad we didn't make it, Harry.
How to keep the conversation locked on her name. And then when people react, whether it's praise or criticism, it turns into another cycle where she responds to that attention all over again. That pattern has become a huge part of how people talk about her online, and it's wild because some see it as exhausting, while others can't look away. It's like this mix of drama and entertainment that keeps pulling people back in, whether they like it or not, and SNL clearly tapped into that vibe. They're not guessing anymore. They're leaning all the way in, making it obvious they think they've figured out the whole image she presents.
Elon built electric cars. He's going to Mars. Why is he even involving himself with Twitter? It would be like if the Prince of England gave it all up just to marry an actor from Suits.
Then there's the conversation about her acting career, which always seems to come up in these debates. She was on Suits, a solid show with a loyal audience, especially later when it found a bigger wave of viewers through streaming. But critics are quick to point out she wasn't seen as one of the biggest names in the industry at the time. Not on the level of legends like Meryl Streep or Viola Davis, who built decades-long reputations with major awards and iconic roles. Instead, the way people describe it, She was working steadily, doing her job, building her career step by step like many actors do. Then everything shifted when she married into the royal family, and suddenly her level of global recognition changed overnight.
I'm like, she don't know nothing. Going on Oprah, I didn't know. I had no idea how racist they were. It's the royal family. You didn't Google this? It's the royal family.
That jump is what keeps fueling the conversation, especially when people feel like the image now doesn't fully match where things started. And when it comes to comedy, it hasn't just been one show taking shots. Big names across the scene, from Colin Jost to Chris Rock, have all thrown in their takes. It's almost like she became a recurring topic, something comedians keep coming back to because the audience instantly gets the reference. Even SNL leaned into that perception hard, framing her less like a formal public figure and more like that one person everyone knows, the one who leaves the group chat in a dramatic way, then keeps sending long messages explaining why. It really comes off like someone saying they're done with drama while still blasting their voice through a megaphone. That's the vibe people keep pointing out again and again, and it's hard to ignore once you see it. You hear the complaints. The attention is too much. The cameras won't stop. Privacy is all I want. And those words sound serious on the surface. But then, right alongside that, there's a constant stream of interviews, podcasts, and high-profile appearances dropping back to back. There are documentaries being released, major platform deals being announced, and even lifestyle products tied directly to her name hitting the spotlight. That contrast is exactly what people keep questioning, because it feels like two completely different messages happening at the same time. From the outside looking in, critics say it doesn't line up. You can't push for total privacy while also stepping into projects that are built around sharing your personal story with millions of viewers. That tension is what comedians have locked onto, and SNL didn't hold back at all. They leaned straight into that victim narrative angle and turned it into a punchline, making it clear they think audiences already recognize the pattern. And that pattern is what keeps getting repeated in conversations everywhere. First, there's a move that grabs attention in a big way. Then people react, debate it, break it down across social media and headlines. After that, the focus shifts to how overwhelming that attention feels, which sparks even more discussion. And before it fades, the whole cycle starts right back up again. Comedians have been circling this dynamic for years now.
He asked the CEO of Disney to hook his wife up with voiceovers. And I mean, don't get me wrong, on the one hand, husband goals. On the other hand, you gotta admit the monarchy has fallen off, right?
It's become one of those topics that keeps the crowd engaged because everyone instantly understands the reference. And when Chris Rock stepped in, he didn't dance around it either. He addressed it directly, saying out loud what a lot of people had already been thinking but hadn't put so bluntly. Chris Rock also weighed in on that whole conversation about the baby's skin tone, and he didn't tiptoe around it at all. He framed it more like a family being curious, the kind of questions that can come up when people are blending different backgrounds. His take came off blunt, maybe even controversial, but that's exactly why it grabbed so much attention and got people debating from every angle. Then Jimmy Kimmel jumped into the mix too, and he's been throwing jokes their way for a long time now. This time, he went straight at the bigger narrative, pointing out the move to the United States and how complicated the country's own history with race has been. He brought up the fact that America has its own deep and ongoing struggles, which made the whole situation seem confusing to him. That angle added even more fuel to the conversation because it raised questions people were already arguing about online. The way critics describe it, the storyline just doesn't fully add up in their eyes. They see a shift from one environment to another, both with very real challenges, and they question how it all fits together. And in the middle of that, there's this ongoing perception that the narrative keeps circling back to being misunderstood or mistreated, which keeps the spotlight locked in place. From a comedy perspective, that's exactly the kind of material performers lock onto. They look at the public image, the decisions, the interviews, and they build their jokes around what they see as contradictions or patterns. That doesn't mean everyone agrees with the framing, but it does explain why the topic keeps coming back on stage and on shows. What stands out most is how differently people interpret the same story. Some see strategy, some see sincerity, and others just see a cycle that keeps repeating in public view. That's the core of the criticism right there. Some people look at the whole situation and boil it down to ambition, status, and access. They believe she stepped into royalty for the title, the wealth, and the privileges that come with it, but didn't want to fully take on the expectations tied to that role. That's the angle critics keep pushing, and it's been repeated so many times that it's basically become its own storyline. And then there's Harry, who always gets pulled into the conversation right alongside her. The narrative around him is that he walked away from everything familiar, his family, his country, his long-established role, and completely reset his life. Supporters say that was a personal choice for independence, while critics frame it as a decision, driven by influence and emotion. Either way, people keep focusing on how drastically his life changed, especially now that he's part of a very different kind of public image and business world. That image gets amplified every time a new project drops. From media appearances to product launches, everything gets picked apart and turned into commentary. When lifestyle products or branded ventures come out, critics are quick to mock them, saying it feels disconnected from the serious tone of earlier interviews. That contrast becomes easy material for jokes, and comedians waste no time jumping on it. Then came Joe Coy at the Golden Globes, and he didn't hesitate either. With Harry and Meghan sitting right there in the audience, he leaned into the moment and delivered a joke that instantly got attention. He poked fun at the idea of royal connections and money, tying it back to their public story in a way that had people reacting immediately. And that ties into a bigger point comedians keep circling. The shift from royal life to media deals, especially that massive Netflix agreement, has been one of the biggest talking points. Huge numbers get thrown around.
Body language between William and Catherine, who just know how to perform as a duo, and Harry and Meghan, where there is always some sort of awkward, uncomfortable tension between the two of them, which I think you could definitely see there. You see how Meghan is so determined to have her shoulder in front of Harry's.
Expectations go sky high, and then every project gets judged under a microscope. When something doesn't land the way people expect, it becomes instant comedy material. Trevor Noah even added his own smooth take on it. He highlighted how unusual it looks to turn personal struggles and public disputes into full-scale content deals. His delivery was calm, but the message hit hard. Because to a lot of viewers, the idea of monetizing those experiences feels both fascinating and confusing at the same time. Trevor Noah's perspective on Harry and Meghan actually shifted over time, and that evolution caught a lot of attention. Early on, he showed support, especially when it came to conversations about media treatment and the pressure surrounding their situation. He spoke on those issues seriously, backing the idea that there were real challenges involved. But then things started to look different as more public moments unfolded. One moment that really stood out was when Harry was seen trying to line up a voiceover opportunity with Disney. That clip spread everywhere, and it changed how a lot of people, including Trevor, viewed the situation. Because suddenly, the narrative didn't feel the same anymore. The question became obvious. If the goal was stepping away for a quieter, more private life, then why move straight into high-profile entertainment deals? That's where Trevor started shifting his tone. He began pointing out what looked like a major pivot. from royal responsibilities to building a career in celebrity media. And to critics, that didn't come off as privacy. It looked more like a rebrand, a complete transition from one kind of spotlight to another, just packaged differently. Then Stephen Colbert stepped in, and he took a completely different angle. He went straight for the branding. When he joked about the H&M nickname, the reaction was instant. He compared it to the clothing store, and that comparison stuck because it was so simple and so sharp. It turned something meant to sound polished into something people laughed at right away. And that's really what comedians keep circling back to. The mixed messaging. One minute it's about being relatable, the next it's about royalty. Then it shifts to being misunderstood, and then suddenly it's about building a business empire. That constant switching is what creates the awkwardness comedians latch onto. It feels like multiple identities all being presented at once, without fully committing to any single one. That trying everything at once energy is what keeps turning into punchlines. And it doesn't stop either. Even smaller moments, like lifestyle content or product choices, end up getting spotlighted and joked about. Jimmy Fallon even jumped in on that wave, taking a light jab at one of those moments, showing how even the smallest details can turn into full comedy bits when the spotlight is already that intense. Jimmy Fallon took one look at Meghan's lifestyle content and zoomed in on a moment that had people talking for all kinds of reasons. It was meant to feel relatable, simple, down to earth, but the way it came across to critics felt completely different. The scene, taking regular, store-bought pretzels and pouring them into a fancy glass jar like it was some groundbreaking idea. That was the whole bit. And Fallon didn't let that slide. He turned it into a joke instantly, because to a lot of viewers, it felt like trying way too hard to dress up something basic. That's the disconnect people keep pointing out. If the goal is to seem relatable, then critics say it has to feel real, not staged or overly polished. Just showing everyday life would land better than presenting small, ordinary things like they're revolutionary. That pretzel moment became symbolic of a bigger issue people keep circling. This gap between the image being presented and how it's actually received. Then John Oliver came in with a totally different lens, bringing that sharp British humor into the mix. He looked at the entire situation and flipped it into a joke about the royal family itself. He painted this picture of Prince Andrew sitting back, watching everything unfold, quietly relieved that the spotlight had shifted away from him. The way Oliver framed it made the whole situation feel like a rotating spotlight of attention within the royal circle, where one headline replaces another. And of course, Ricky Gervais didn't hold back either. He went straight at the idea of privilege and perception. His argument, wrapped in comedy, was blunt. If you come from a life of status and advantage, then own it. Don't try to position yourself as struggling in the same way as people who faced real hardship. That contrast, according to him, is where the humor and the criticism really hits. Especially when titles and status still get used when they're convenient for branding or public image. That contradiction is exactly what comedians keep turning into material. It's sharp, it's easy for audiences to recognize, and it sparks instant reactions. And then you've got voices like Tim Dillon, who don't even try to ease into it. He delivers his takes in a much more direct, no-filter style, making it clear he finds the whole situation frustrating and hard to connect with. No metaphors, no poetry, just straight vibes. That's the energy some comedians bring when they talk about elite celebrity culture. It's direct, it's sharp, and it calls things out without dressing them up. And somehow, Meghan has ended up right in the middle of that conversation, representing what critics see as overly polished, heavily branded, carefully curated public image energy. That's why her name keeps coming up again and again. It fits into a bigger picture they're already talking about. And here's the part that keeps coming back in every joke. When someone positions themselves as a global figure, the spotlight doesn't come with protection. It comes with more attention from every angle. That includes praise, criticism, and a whole lot of comedy. The bigger the platform, the bigger the reaction. That's the trade-off people keep pointing out, and comedians lean into it every single time, because once you're in that space, there's no picking and choosing. You don't get to keep the fame while blocking out the jokes. It all comes together. The attention, the headlines, the commentary, it's a full package deal, and the audience is always watching. That's what made that moment hit the way it did. Not dramatic in a serious sense, not some major scandal, but definitely a hit to public image. And sometimes that kind of moment sticks more than anything else. At the end of the day, it all comes down to how people see it. Some think the jokes go too far, others think it's just part of being in that level of fame. So what do you think? Does Meghan deserve all these jokes, or is she being unfairly targeted as a public figure? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with someone who's been following all the drama.